Welcome back, my friends. I'm so glad to see you safe after leaving me behind like leftovers. Nice one with the, hey look Bane, it's your dad trick. So it looks like you handled this quest just fine, losing to the jailer, coming back with nothing to show for it. Okay, maybe I'll make a body pillow out of her. Okay, 2 body pillows. Anyway, you should have had me come along. Good old Reliabaine. Reliabaine. Get it? After all, I've had direct interactions with the jailer. I know what makes him tick.
Hey look, it's your father.
What? Papa? Oh, son of a...
Hey, it's Soul, and welcome back to Warcraft Weekly, the show that complains about complaining. Seriously, he does not stop with the obnoxious positivity. What a shill. But let's get right to it, starting with a very, very big and maybe controversial test in the Burning Crusade Classic. As you know, there are big faction disparities that mostly favor the Horde, leading to hours-long queues for battlegrounds, while the Alliance enjoy instant queues and faster gearing. What makes it worse is that because it's faster for one faction, those players will eventually stop queuing now that they got their fancy gears, leading to even longer queues for the other faction. Over the past weekend, Blizzard tested a feature that will let Horde players fight against other Horde players in battlegrounds. It's sort of like mercenary mode, but it's automatically done behind the scenes. The response so far has been mostly very good, at least if you're a Horde player, because during the testing period they could actually play. That's good. Meanwhile, the Alliance didn't notice much of anything except for maybe a bit longer of a queue, and there's almost no chance that they'll be playing against their own faction. However, this doesn't do much to resolve the underlying issues of faction imbalance. In fact, it risks making it worse. Before this, one would think, oh, if I want shorter queues, then I'll switch to Alliance. Done. But if this experiment becomes permanent, that's one more reason to not stay in the Alliance and join your friends if they happen to be on the Horde. Now, cosmetics and racials are a good reason to choose one faction over the other, but for the most part, people just want to play together. Just like how some people join their friends on PvP servers even though they didn't want to, some people joined a certain faction because their friends were there, simple as that. In today's WoW, there's the ongoing battle to blur the faction lines, to let the players play together. Some would call it removing the factions, or having a third faction for us, the champions of Azeroth. I've been a huge supporter of doing away with the faction divide with the champions while preserving the faction politics through quests that are specific to your faction, you know, kind of like how there are race and specific quests every now and then. Back during BlizzConline, developers said that the threads of resolve were kind of beginning to fray, meaning that we could see a WoW in the near future with players who can group together regardless of their race choice. In WoW Classic, though, none of those options are likely going to happen. History suggests that this problem will only get worse, and that no incentive has any real hope of really fixing the imbalance without causing some huge inconveniences for players. Now I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this, like whether you're playing BC Classic or not. What would help alleviate this sort of imbalance while preserving as many of the fundamentals of the old game as possible? But now let's move on to Shadowlands 9.1, the beginning of Season 2 and what totally ruined it. Okay, it didn't ruin it, but I do take issue with a certain problem that I hope is addressed soon, if not already by the time you're watching this. In the new dungeon Tazavesh, there's an encounter called Mailroom Mayhem. During the encounter, there are bombs thrown on the ground, and it's up to us to pick them up and throw them into an active chute, where the bomb safely gets whisked out to someone else's mailbox, possibly killing many innocent bystanders in the process. There's a bug where you can't pick up these bombs because reasons, right? And the internet has done a fantastic job of researching workarounds, including just bursting the boss down in like a minute. One of the workarounds actually did work for my team, although it didn't work when I went back and tried it with another. It was just really frustrating. This bug is legit bad. I'm not talking about lag or respawn rates or Sylvanas ping-ponging you all over the place. I'm talking about something that is easy to identify during maintenance, like, hey QA team, because yes, despite what you think they have a QA team, hey QA team, can you do like a sanity check on Tazavesh on the consumer realm? Yeah, off you go, bye! Because again, despite what you may presume, what you do in a test environment is different from testing it on a consumer environment. There are a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas in this situation, like acknowledging the bug and telling it to players, to providing a band-aid fix, nerfing the crap out of the bomb mechanic while an actual fix was being looked into. But I hope this gets fixed soon, because this dungeon is cool, with some real wild fights and mechanics that are just, Well, they're just super cool. If you can deal with it, I uploaded my entire first time experience with my guild, and there's a bunch of timestamps to help you along the way. There's a reason I brought this critique up, because this season, the patch, the whole expansion, the game, and the company that makes it is enveloped in this cloud of negativity. Most everywhere we look, from the wine post on MMO Champion to Wowhead posts that are just talking about the brand new mount to comment in a video guide to the responses to the latest cinematic, we see this vile commentary from people who may or may not be playing WoW still, but WoW is certainly living in their head rent-free. Now, before I set anyone off, let me be very clear who it is I'm talking about. I don't think anyone has a problem with people who just aren't satisfied with the game because of a thing, or that the game changed, or that their tolerance for the same old routine is gone. I think that the discussion about topics like story design between people who are interested in sharing ideas and opinions is as good as a ribeye steak. Even better if we're actually, having ribeye during this conversation. And I thrive the most talking with like-minded people about how to make this game, which has been a part of our lives for nearly 2 decades, better. So who am I talking about? I'm talking about the folks who are effectively contributing nothing to the conversation, whose only interest is to drag the game down with insults to fellow fans and content creators and developers. There's 15 people among you who use Twitter, I check the stats, trust me. And it's insane that in the days leading up to Season 2 beginning, also known as the End of Raid cinematic release, Blizzard developers were coming out to say, hey, we're really excited about this, people are gonna react very strongly, and there's more to come, yada yada yada. Because just like their own story, it was very predictable what was going to happen. Not really a spoiler, but maybe I'll just say that the cinematic turned out almost exactly how people had predicted it would, which is a few notches down from my own prediction, with Sylvanas and Nathanos just laughing and reminiscing about old times for 3 minutes. The internet's reaction was your regular mix of, hey, I love how there are so many different ways the story can go. This isn't what I expected. I feel nothing. Ruffle mail, bad writing, and then of course, death threats. But the level of backlash to the backlash was something that I didn't really see before, with fans, content creators, and developers throughout the entertainment industry condemning the death threats and trying to push back against the negativity, informing folks of the difficulty of story writing in movies, games, and TV. It's a pretty good thread. I invite you to give it a read, and I'll link that in the video description. My take is that in the past something or other years, both fans and critics have been nurtured by the internet to both express opinions and to seek validation of said opinions, because feeling alone sucks and not feeling alone feels good. And I think that's done something to people that behavioral scientists or people that are just way smarter than me are not talking about enough. Because back in ancient times, if someone had a hot take and no one immediately around them agreed, well, that someone's voice would kind of be stamped out. And mind you, that's neither a good nor bad thing. These days, if someone had a hot take, there's going to be people on the internet who feel the same way, and they'll seek out others who agree, back them up, and now that same someone can say, yeah, well, we disagree with you. And you know what? That's mostly okay. Conflicting ideologies that result in the sharing and discussion of ideas can end up with both sides coming away learning from each other. Not oftentimes does that happen, but hey, I'm a positive YouTuber, right? What I don't find okay is this mass of loathing or hatred that isn't interested in discussion or learning. Its only interest is to grow and to beat others down with negativity until they're absorbed into its globulous mass. I think I should pull this back a little bit. I think I'm getting into anime territory.
We're fighting against the mass of hatred, and only the power of friendship can save us.
Rah, Reliabaine.
There's a world of a difference between constructive criticism and frothing at the mouth negativity. Now, I consider myself to be very critical of the world of Warcraft, and for anyone who's gotten to know me through my work, you've seen it. I'm not fond of the expansion-sized features of borrowed power, or the lack of player housing. I don't like the faction divide. I feel very strongly that WoW's story should move in a direction that respects the age of the game and let its players just play together. Flying should open up new content, not just trivialize it, especially now in Shadowlands, where flight is pretty much a given. I think World of Warcraft storytelling could be framed in such a way to avoid months-long cliffhangers and needs a lot more side quests to add depth to the new lands that we're exploring. I want high-res tabards, and most recently, I carried on about how public testing is not healthy for the overall WoW experience, despite a handful of people who have the discipline to avoid everything. That's just a taste of my critical reactions to the World of Warcraft, and with each of those criticisms, I talk about how that makes me feel as a player, followed by inviting you to all share your thoughts, like and subscribe, and to stay breezy. Now, there's no guarantee that my criticisms will be addressed. I don't even know if their social media team gives one flying about the work that I put out. That comes with a job, but for many, those cries for change plus the encouragement from those who agree with them give an impression of entitlement. It's very, very common these days. We, the players, demand this. I mean, everyone I know is saying this and that. Blizz, you've got to listen to us. And when Blizzard gives an answer that they don't like, or maybe none at all, the criticism grows from the original issue to the response to the issue. It just cascades. It turns into frustration, anger, and of course, negativity. And it sticks, because for the times that Blizzard does listen, it's like, all right, boys, give yourselves a pat on the back. They finally listened to us. They gave in. Regardless of the results, the behavior is then reinforced by the response and, I guess, their headcanon. The way I see it, at least, negativity is taking those critiques and channeling frustration to get an emotional response from listeners, and it's infectious. Flying is time-gated because Blizzard knows there's no real content in the game. It's not bad story design, Soul, it's just straight bad writing. We get borrowed power because Blizz doesn't care about its long-term fans, it just wants to sell expansion boxes for the quarterly thing that gets Bobby Kotick his bonuses. Oh, you're saying it's not? Well, you're just a shill who enjoys dick in their salad. I call it a burger bowl. Thank you very much. And it gets cringier. I mean, I get it, folks. More often than not, I'm actually with you when it comes to things that I'd like to see WoW improve upon. I just express it in a different and less emotionally driven way, minus the personal attacks too. My earlier feedback on Tazavesh is probably as scathing as I can get. And mind you, the good definitely outweighs the bad. It's why I still play. Crazy, right? The cinematic reaction this week felt like a flashpoint of anger from that side of the community unhappy with the story, followed by the smoldering discourse that came from the original 9.1 launch issues with Korthia. Just like the Burning Crusade Classic release, putting stuff in players' hands tends to calm them down. But somehow I don't feel like things are getting better deep down. It's as if WoW was a restaurant, right? And you have tons of regulars that come in, but some of the regulars trash talk the food regularly and over the smallest things, like, oh, the portions are different. It took a few minutes longer than the last time. It doesn't taste right. Oh, Ian's the head chef now? Well, I guess this place has gone to crap, right? God, the staff is totally incompetent. Did you hear about the other restaurant with the award-winning expansion? It's great that they care about their customers, you know what I mean? But gosh, I love this place. I'll see you tomorrow, guys. This restaurant is totally dead. Even worse, and yeah, I'm still going with the analogy, even worse are the people who regularly leave Yelp reviews who are like, yeah, I haven't eaten here in years, but man, after looking at the menu, this place sounds like it's been going downhill for the past 12 years. I'm surprised it's still going. Real talk though, I think I nailed it with a restaurant analogy. I can go on with that one like forever. It may shock you, but the people who make video games are just like you and me, with feelings and emotions, at least one appendage, and tolerance. The fact that they work for these companies and have obligations to, not lash out in public does not make them a punching bag immune to verbal abuse and harassment. I don't see anything on the terms of service agreement saying that, yeah, that $15 a month, it lets you be a dick, and I'm not talking about salad. But of course, I don't want you coming away from this video thinking, oh, Soul just wants us to all shut up and be compliant. Of course not. Most of the videos that I make outside of guides are me complaining and giving critiques. There's an image I saw floating around while writing this. It's from a presentation that Square Enix did at a GDC, reflecting on their failures when first launching Final Fantasy XIV and what they've learned. I'm not sure when this was, but check it out. The slide says that running an MMORPG is like running a country. The third point is the real banger. A complaint is worth twice a compliment. The silent always leave first. If citizens are complaining, it means they still care. And I totally resonate with that. It's why I do what I do. It's why many people out there give some great, fantastic feedback. And I know it can be frustrating that just about every time our feedback and suggestions are guaranteed to be in direct conflict with someone else's feedback and suggestions, with Blizzard having the impossible job of having to choose who to placate, knowing that no matter what they do, there's going to be pushback from someone, and the people who agree with them. One thing I think we are mostly united on, I think developers are capable of doing better. So instead of beating them down with negativity, I'm going to support them with my feedback and criticism as I think I always have. And if that's not what you want to hear from this channel, then you don't need me. And I don't need you. That's the show. So I don't have a lot to comment on with the Sanctum of Domination raid other than that the Painsmith really lives up to his name. It's a great way to kick off the second half because he's kind of hard. But Tazavesh, bugs aside, has been remarkable, absolutely remarkable as a dungeon. I totally love it. It has this look and feel and vibe that I really wish that was the main hub of Shadowlands and not Oribos. And even comparing it to Dalaran, it puts Dalaran to shame. The encounters themselves are really cool, but the SoulSoBreezy encounter, I'd say it felt like the most unique and refreshing fight of them all, because it's like there are these teleport column things that you've got to use to navigate throughout the fight. So they're constantly moving, there are barriers that block you, and you've got to use these to get to the boss before it finishes a cast that will wipe the party. So that feeling of having to be hyper aware of where you go and where you end up, and has you trying to think a few steps ahead, and that's it's like one of those really exciting moments in gaming when you figured out the thing and it clicks and it becomes like this dance. It's definitely one of my most favorite fights like ever in an MMO, and you've got to give it a try. Maybe you'll agree with me, maybe it's like the worst to you, but just give that a shot. I know I had a kind of hard time writing this weekly because, you know, since it's on negativity, it's easy to turn people off like it's a personal attack on them. It's just that there's a lot of line stepping these days. You know, people who are like, yeah, I can be verbally abusive because I pay my $15 a month. I'm the customer, yada, yada, yada. And I'm worried that as the backlash to the backlash to the backlash dies down, we'll just circle back here again the next time. And this behavior coming from the worst of us, which is hardly all of us, but the behavior coming from the worst of us makes game developers feel less encouraged to create or to take risks or even to talk to fans. I remember very recently, I was reading about one developer talking about a loss in their family, and then someone replied, this is on Twitter, someone replied like, yeah, okay, can you go fix your game now? Yeah, something like that. It was a different game, it wasn't World of Warcraft, but that doesn't make a lick of difference. There are just some really screwed up people out there. And I just want a place like this channel or wherever where we can play video games and just talk about them, not hate them or love them to the point of tribalism. I think the 14 versus WoW stuff, I think that's going to go on for a while still. I bring that up because I think I'm going to try and at least finish the Shadowbringer story if I can ever get into the Dying Gasp, but that's the last trial of the base game. I've tried no fewer than 10 times to get a group going and nothing, so just pray for me over the weekend, I guess. But I bring that up because I want to finish that and then finally check out crafting and housing, and then from there start writing my next thing on player housing in the World of Warcraft. I really want to dive into it this time, like not just ideas, but how it can be implemented, and describe the player experience, get more specific than I ever have, and I'd like to see what people think of that. So I hope that you'll give it a watch. It might be fun. But yeah, this week was definitely a roller coaster of empathy and emotion towards the WoW team. I know that they're working their asses off, and it's going to be another few weeks until we can at least start bitching over a 9/15 PTR date. Next week, there's going to be a lot to look forward to with the start of Mythic Raiding and more, so let's get to the outro. I want to give a huge thanks to the Twitch subscribers and the patrons for continuing to support the channel, and to all of you who made it to the end. Thank you just as much. It means a lot to the algorithm. Don't forget to like the video because you're great. Subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft, and we will see you next week. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.